When negative thoughts come up, do you act as if they're true? You're listening to Pure Light, where we explore how you can believe in yourself and be happy with who you are so that you feel worthy of your craziest dreams and confident in your power to make them happen. My name is Ailey. I'm a coach, writer, and Kundalini yoga and meditation teacher. This is episode 88. In the last couple of episodes, I've been talking about how we sometimes unintentionally set ourselves up for failure by only allowing ourselves to do something the right way, which can then prevent us from moving forward because we try to do it in the perfect way. And instead of getting the ball rolling, we basically do nothing at all. And another way we set ourselves up for failure is by not anticipating challenges along the way and planning around that. And so then when stuff comes up, we basically use that as confirmation that, things are always going to be the way that they are. And we tell ourselves stories like, I always screw this up. I've gotten thrown off track. I'm never going to be able to do this. And in this episode, I wanted to talk about the biggest way we set ourselves up for failure. Because when I was talking about how I'd gotten off track with my writing recently in the last episode, there was a word that stood out to me. I said I haven't been indulging in telling myself a story about why I'll never finish my book. The word that stood out in that was indulging. So I haven't been allowing myself to get into that story. And to be honest, my mind hasn't even really tried to go there. And as I was reflecting on that, I realized that was something worth talking about. Because at one point, my mind would have done that automatically. It would have gone to the story and started rationalizing something like, this always happens to me. I'm never going to finish this book. And so at that point, I would have never seen it as allowing myself to get into the story. Like I wouldn't have seen that as a choice. It was just the way that things were. So I would often give up on things because I believed the stories I was telling myself. I acted as if those negative thoughts were true. So the biggest way we set ourselves up for failure is by acting as if our negative thoughts are true. It's by operating under the assumption that we can't do it and fueling the belief that we'll never get there or that it's impossible. So if you catch yourself telling yourself a story that's along the lines of, this always happens to me, or this is just the way that things are, or something like that, that's a sign that you're operating under the assumption that you can't do it. And so the problem here isn't the fact that those thoughts are coming up. They're only a problem when we act as if they're true. Because when we act as if they're true, that feeds the underlying belief. And it creates like a cycle in the mind of looking for reasons to confirm the assumption that it's impossible or that we can't do it. And that just leads to us further convincing ourselves that we should give up and we shouldn't even try. And that's where the story comes from. It's a way of explaining and justifying to ourselves that things will always be the way that they are. And by telling ourselves that story, we feed the idea, we strengthen the belief, and we give it power because we operate under the assumption that it's true. But that's just an assumption. And the mind often comes up with ideas as an automatic reaction to something. I talked about this in a previous episode called Automatic Patterns. When we act on the default reaction of the mind, we don't have control over our perspective on something. And if we're at the mercy of our minds, then we'll act as if our thoughts are true. Yogi Bhajan said, either you direct the mind or the mind will direct you. And Napoleon Hill said, you either control your mind or it controls you. And this is why meditation is so important, because meditation gives you separation from your thoughts. And so it gives you the power to choose how you relate to your thoughts and to choose which ones you want to believe. I talked about that in a previous episode as well, the one called The Real Point of Meditation. So the problem here isn't the thought, it's the fact that we think it's true by default and we don't even question it. And when that happens, it basically means we're the victim of our own thoughts because we've taken almost like a poor me attitude towards ourselves and our capabilities. When we start to tell ourselves stories like, this is who I am, this is how it is, this is how it always will be, I'll never be able to do this. But that's just one perspective. And as soon as you're aware of the fact that you have this perspective, you have the power to choose a different one. And you can choose one that's empowering. So you can switch your focus from what you think you can't do to what you can and focus on that instead. In the next episode, I'll talk about how to choose your perspective and how to change your thoughts. To make sure you get it, subscribe to Pure Light wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, may you be guided by your light.